Hi beautiful people, welcome to my channel. Have you ever read a book and then as you're reading it or when you finish it, you realize this really reminds you of another book or a movie? Well, this list is exactly that. I'm going to share with you 10 books with similar books and movies that you might enjoy if you enjoyed those 10 books. Let's get started. Okay, so I have 3 books to discuss with you guys, and I'm also going to share with you guys 2 movies that I believe you will also enjoy if you liked these books as well as a TV series. So that is a lot, I know, but I just didn't know how to kind of break this down. There's just a lot that I can give you guys, which I think is a bonus. So if you liked the book The Guest List by Lucy Foley, I also think you will enjoy Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapena, as well as An Unwanted Guest by Shari Lapena. These two have a similarity in the sense of a whodunit. Same author, obviously, just not exactly the same story, but definitely think that if you enjoyed one of these, you'll enjoy the others. The 2 movies I think that you would enjoy if you enjoyed all of these are Knives Out and Clue. I would say that Knives Out is a lot more like Not a Happy Family because they're about people inheriting money, but I still think that you would enjoy both of these if you enjoyed any of these books. And I also think you'd enjoy the TV series Big Little Lies because that's also a whodunit. So in the guest list, it is about a bunch of guests that are on this island for a wedding, and each of these guests are kind of followed within the story. Someone dies at the wedding and obviously you go find out who killed this person. And in An Unwanted Guest, this is a story about a bunch of people who get stuck at this hotel during a snowstorm and they can't go anywhere, and someone ends up dead and they realize that somebody killed this person and they try and figure out who it was. Pretty much the same kind of concept with everybody trapped somewhere. This one was everybody was trapped on an island. This one is everybody's trapped in this hotel. And Not a Happy Family is about a dysfunctional and unhappy family who get together on Easter Sunday, I believe, and they have arguments and they're unhappy about what they will receive money-wise from their parents' will. And then the next day the parents are found dead and the police suspect that one of the children must have killed the parents. So that one is very much more like Knives Out. In Knives Out, a man is found dead and his whole family is suspected because of the inheritance that they will get upon his death. And Clue is a story about a bunch of people getting invited to a house. I don't want to give too much away, and each of them are being blackmailed by the person that's invited them, and somebody kills the guy who invited everybody there, and they all have to figure out who's the killer. But that one is more of a comedy. Knives Out also has a little bit of comedy, but Clue is the more comedic of all of these. Even so, I still think that if you enjoyed any of these 3 books, you will definitely enjoy those 2 movies. And the reason I also mentioned Big Little Lies is because Big Little Lies starts off at this function where somebody dies and then the police starts to interview everybody, and it kind of goes from there back to the past and leads up to that function so you can find out who died and why. So that also has a whodunit. But Big Little Lies is a lot slower. It's more of a mystery drama, so it is a slower burn, but it's still fantastic. There is also a book, so I do own the book, but I wasn't gonna try and juggle 4 books, so I thought I'd show you the 3 books and then just mention those. And if you liked any of these books and movies, I also think you'd like anything written by Agatha Christie, especially the Poirot books or TV series or movies. There's plenty of those out. So if you enjoyed Warcross by Mary Lou, I definitely think you would enjoy Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, both the book and the movie. I haven't read the book just yet, I do own it, but the movie is fantastic. Lots of nostalgia and lots of fun pop culture references. So I definitely think that if you enjoyed those two, you'll enjoy Warcross and vice versa. Warcross isn't filled with all the pop culture references, but the worlds in both of these are very similar. So Warcross is about a girl called Amika, who is a bounty hunter. She goes after people who are illegally using the game Warcross in this virtual reality. So they're both based on virtual reality. In Ready Player One, the place that they go into virtually is called the Oasis. They both have those qualities, and I think that they're very similar in that sense. I had a lot of fun reading Warcross because I watched the movie first of Ready Player One, and when I read Warcross, it gave me that same kind of feeling. So I definitely think that you would enjoy reading or watching these because they are pretty similar. I also want to mention Alita Battle Angel. I've never read any of the books, comic books, graphic novels, whatever they are. I've never read them, but I've seen the movie and it did give me that kind of like virtual reality feel. But I do remember when I watched Alita, it made me feel the way that Ready Player One felt. It had that virtual reality feel to it. So I definitely think that if you like either of these two, you also like Alita. I will say it is very different to the other two. So if you liked the book Bird Box, I definitely think you should check out A Quiet Place. I know that there is a Bird Box movie as well, but it's just not as good. I just do think that A Quiet Place really feels like Bird Box if you don't want to watch the exact same thing that you've read. Bird Box is about a world where if you happen to see the creatures in this world, you harm yourself. And in A Quiet Place, it is about a family who are living in this world with these monsters that are blind, but if they hear any kind of noise, they can attack you. So in this movie, everyone has to be super quiet, and so they've just got that sensory thing. I do prefer A Quiet Place, but if you wanted to check out something different, I think that these two are fantastic. So if you enjoyed One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, I suggest watching the TV series 13 Reasons Why and Pretty Little Liars. I believe that these two are a perfect mix of what this is about. This is about 5 students who get sent to detention, and one of them dies in this room and all the other students are suspects. I guess it's a whodunit, but it's a YA book, and it just reminds me more of 13 Reasons Why and a little bit of Pretty Little Liars. So the reason I do say Pretty Little Liars is because it does have a antagonist who is writing in a column saying, you know, this person had this secret and this person has this secret and this is why they could have done it, etc. So there's someone trying to gossip about it to try and put the light on certain characters in this, so that has a Pretty Little Liars kind of feel. It's the same thing in 13 Reasons Why. She leaves tapes behind to say, like, these are the people that kind of hurt me, and this one kind of has that too. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away. If you haven't read it, I really enjoyed this book. There is also a television series and I only recently watched it. Really enjoyed that too, so I'm going to add that one here, and I think you should definitely check out the TV series because it is a lot of fun, and the ending leaves it open for more seasons, which is amazing because the sequel to this one is completely different. It doesn't follow the same characters, although some of them are still mentioned in the book. I think it's more of a standalone. So if you enjoyed this, I definitely think you guys should check out these. So if you enjoyed Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I definitely think that you will enjoy Almost Famous. I know I've seen a lot of people say that if you like this, you'll like Bohemian Rhapsody. But to be honest, for some reason, I'm surprised that no one's actually said Almost Famous, because to me, that's the most similar one. I'm just shocked that this hasn't been compared before. So in Daisy Jones and the Six, this is about a band and it's written kind of like an interview style, and it follows Daisy Jones and the Six, which is a band, but it's mainly about Daisy Jones. It feels like a real band from the 70s, And then in Almost Famous, it's about a journalist, so they both have the journalist aspect, who goes on tour with a band and these girls called Band-Aids, which are like groupies, and the main girl, Penny Lane, is in love with the lead singer. Daisy Jones is in love with the lead male in the band, and so those similarities are there. Daisy Jones and Penny Lane are very similar in personality, so I definitely see that there, and they're both 70s bands, so I definitely think that if you liked this, you will love this movie. So if you liked Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, I definitely think you will like The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting. I do think more The Haunting of Hill House. So this story is about a girl whose father wrote a book about this house that she used to live in as a child, and that they had to leave it because it was haunted, and she doesn't believe that that's what happened. She doesn't remember much of what happened, so she ends up inheriting the house when the dad passes away, and she wants to renovate it so she can sell it. And while she's there renovating the house, she starts to uncover the truth about what happened. It's really cool how this is written. You'll get like one timeline of her story in the future and one timeline showing the chapters of the book of her father, so it's just really interesting because it's such a page turner because you never want to stop, especially like her father's book, because it's about the hauntings. It's just so interesting and so much fun, and that ending is amazing. I absolutely love this. This is my favorite Riley Sager book, but I'm ranting. So the reason I think it's similar to The Haunting of Hill House is because it is a similar story. In The Haunting of Hill House, the Crane family move into this house and weird stuff starts to happen in this, and the family flee from the home just like in this one, and then Nell decides to go back to the house to find out what really happened. So it's a very, very similar story there. The Haunting of Hill House is actually based on The Haunting by Shirley Jackson, which is a book but also has 2 adaptations. I just don't think that, even though they've got the Crane family in it and Nell is a character, it's very different to The Haunting of Hill House. So I do think that if you like this, you'll like The Haunting of Hill House. But if you also want to check out The Haunting, I highly recommend, because I love that story too. If you liked The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, I suggest watching The Haunting of Bly Manor. So in this story, a woman takes up a nannying position, and when she gets there, the children are a bit strange, and the house is a smart home, so the appliances and lights start to do weird things, and she knows that something's happening in this house. And in The Haunting of Bly Manor, a woman takes up a nannying position to take care of these kids. These kids are also a little bit strange, and weird stuff starts to happen in the house as well. So both of these are pretty similar in concept. I know that The Turn of the Key is mainly inspired from The Turning of the Screw, I think it's called. I always get it wrong. I've not read that book, but I do want to read it because I really enjoyed this book, and the ending to this is amazing. And I don't want to give too much away, but if you liked either of these, check the other one out because you'll have a good time. Okay, so if you enjoyed The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I definitely think you should check out The Sinner, the one that stars Jessica Biel, so season 1. In The Silent Patient, this woman shoots her husband 5 times and gets taken by the police into custody, but she makes no sound. She can't talk, she's not telling them why she's done it, and they bring on a doctor to kind of help her uncover why she did what she did. And then in The Sinner, Jessica Biel's character and her boyfriend or partner are at the beach and they're having a good time, but then she spots this couple and something makes her go over there and she kills the guy, and she can't actually explain why she's done it, so they bring in a doctor to try and uncover the reasoning as to why she could have done this. And so as you can see, both are very, very similar in premise. I will say I enjoyed The Sinner a lot more than The Silent Patient, but I still think that you will have fun reading the book as well. Next, I have No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Neville. This was adapted into a Netflix movie, but I do not recommend watching that movie because it is completely different to the book. Instead, I suggest you guys watch the movie Stir of Echoes starring Kevin Bacon. I think these two just have a similar feel to them. They're not exactly the same in story, but they just feel very similar, and I definitely think if you like one, you like the other. Stir of Echoes is based on a book called Stir of Echoes by Richard Matheson, which I really want to read, so I've got that on my TBR. But No One Gets Out Alive is about a girl who's down and out of her luck. She has no money and she's barely making it. She finds this place to rent that's really cheap, so she takes the room and she starts to realize that the guy who owns this place and his brother are very strange, very creepy characters. Things are going on in this house that are both really disturbing from their side, and also she starts to feel like there's a supernatural presence in the house. And in Stir of Echoes, it is about this little boy who has a imaginary friend, and the dad decides to go to this party and he gets hypnotized at the party for him to open his mind because he's very closed-minded, and then he starts to see his son's imaginary friend, and she starts to try to tell him that someone actually killed her and why, and then that story starts to unravel. So it's very spooky, same kind of spooky vibes, very dark, and just there's a scene that reminded me of this movie that's in the book, which is why I knew I had to kind of put these together. I don't want to say it because I don't want to give it away. I guess it has to do with digging, that's all I'm going to say, but that scene really reminded me of each other, and I definitely think that you will enjoy one if you like the other. And the final one I'm going to talk about is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I definitely think that you would enjoy the movies One Day, Love Rosie, and Boys and Girls. I think all of these are very, very similar to this in different ways. So People We Meet on Vacation is about two friends who have gone on yearly vacations together, and something happened years ago, and so they've stopped doing that. And now she decides to reach out to this friend and reconnect, and they decide to do one last trip to kind of see why things went sour and where to go from there. This one really reminded me mostly of Love Rosie. In Love Rosie, it is about two best friends who grew up together, and they have this tension of being more than friends. And so the story follows these two friends just like this one, and in this one lots of stuff happens in many years, and then also in One Day it's the same thing. These two people meet, so they're not necessarily best friends, but they meet and they keep kind of running into each other every few years. So that's kind of like the same because they're all in like yearly timeline. I don't know how to actually explain that, but they have that kind of similarity. And then Boys and Girls is the same. Boys and Girls has more comedy than the others. I know that Love Rosie is supposed to have comedy, but it's not as funny as Boys and Girls. Boys and Girls is a little bit lighthearted. The other two are a little bit more tugging at the heartstrings. But Boys and Girls, if you want something a little bit more chill, that's the one to go to. This one is about two people who consistently meet each other in life throughout the years. So it also follows that kind of, I guess, trope. So all of them have the similarity in that. I love all of them, so I definitely think that if you liked any of these, you will enjoy the others. Okay, so that's today's list. I definitely have a lot more to share with you guys. I have a whole list of these, but I thought I would break them down into small groups just so I won't overwhelm you with too much. So today I just decided to discuss these ones. I hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun coming up with these, and please let me know down below if you agree with me on some of the recommendations that I've given you. I'd really like to hear your point of view if you've seen and read some of these and agree or disagree. Also, I'd love to see if you guys have recommendations of your own that I haven't mentioned. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.